The following program is underwritten by Barlow's Clam Shack, located at 856 Scenic Highway in Bourne. Barlow's Clam Shack, where the seafood is always fresh.
Hi, this is Kathy Fox Alfano, and you're watching Upper Cape Spotlight. This is a campaign edition. My guest today is Sheila Lyons, who is a Barnstable County Commissioner running for re-election. Welcome, Sheila.
Wonderful to be here, Kathy, and thank you for inviting me.
Great. I'm so glad you're here. First, tell us, what is the Barnstable County Commission?
Okay, so the Barnstable County Regional Government is a government that was reconstituted in the 80s when they dissolved the counties across the state.
Wow.
And there were people here on this region that felt that we did need a regional overlay to address the issues that confront the towns that are on this peninsula. So in the preamble of the charter that was written, it says, to really address the issues and concerns that transcend the boundaries of the 15 towns. We're not here to have control over the towns or tell them what to do, but what we are here to do is to look at these issues that we're facing on this peninsula, everything from climate change, housing, wastewater, water quality, homelessness, drug addiction, and how do we help the towns across the board with research, funding, grants that we can bring in, best practices that the towns can use. And we do a lot of that work with the Cape Cod Commission, which is an attachment to county government. It is the regional planning board, and they are really the researchers. They do a lot of the studies of regional housing studies. Right now we're in the middle, we gave them $3 million to do a fresh pond study. Right. Mm-hmm. And how are we going to fix those ponds? Housing, broadband. We just had the One Cape conference, which really highlighted the work of the commission. But we take a lot of that and work with the towns and try to promote best practices, help them implement best strategies that fit their town. We're not dictating this is the way it's going to be. Everyone is sewering. Everyone is going to do this type of housing. We have to let towns sort of figure that out, but we're there to assist, to help build consensus and then execution of whatever is agreed upon.
Are you taking a regional approach to some topics?
Well, I ran first. I was a county commissioner for 8 years. I was elected in 2008 to 2016. And what my platform was then was wastewater. I could see I have been coming to the Cape since as a child. My parents bought a home in West Yarmouth. That's when working class people could put their kids through school and college and still buy a little tiny piece of paradise here. That house, that's way gone. However, I always loved the Cape. I grew up in Boston, and it's a place that I just was, as everyone knows, once you got over that bridge, it was a different story. You could let everything go, smell of pine, the salt water. A lot of that is gone. And I could start to see the changes in our water systems, and that the more housing that was here and the more that there was septic systems and more septic systems, we're really putting nitrogen loads into our waterways, clogging estuaries and our different smaller streams with Phragmites and this sort of thing, and yet nobody wanted to talk about it because it's a very expensive deal. But over time, with a lot of perseverance and working with the commission, we were able to educate, bring it to the forefront over time. The county has always been in the lead of this issue. They had a blue ribbon committee before I came on, and it was something to try to push it, but then it went dormant because it was going to be a lot of money.
Right.
But the more you start saying that this is the issue and that this is the approaches we're going to have to do, and it can't all be on us, but we're willing to do the work, then the government starts to, the state government and the federal government starts to respond.
Excellent. So just what do the county commissioners do?
So what we do is we really look at these issues and set our priorities and the policies of how we're going to go forward, and also the policies of how the government is going to run. So in the last 4 years we were a recipient. Well, first of all, we had the pandemic. When I came in, it was like the pajama campaign, the last campaign, because everything was on Zoom.
Right.
Everything was, at a distance. And so when we came in on it, we have a public health department, and our public health department is the one that was able to get more vaccine to this area. We set up different areas where people could get their shots. We worked with all the clinics across the county and the pharmacies to make sure they had products. So we did a great job as far as that was concerned in protecting our staff. And then we had the opera money. So the county, each town got money depending on their population.
Right.
And Barnstable County got a tranche of money depending on the population of this county. And Joe Biden did say that he wanted to give it to the counties because when he was, younger man, and he saw that the counties really were a vehicle to get things done, and they were always being bypassed. So we were lucky enough to get almost $43 million. And what we did is we put $10 million to the towns, and that was divvied up by the assembly, how that was distributed. And it really did kind of go by population, so the bigger towns did get more than the smaller towns, which I thought was a chance to undo that. However, they did get money, and a lot of them did put it towards their wastewater projects. Right. We put $11 million into housing, and the housing really went to, and this was all through a bidding process. We had a huge process. We had an advisory council that helped us really say where are the areas we're going to put this. So it was housing, it was wastewater, public health, and broadband, and some nonprofits. So we put $11 million into housing, and that is now going to a lot of projects that were stalled because of COVID, and the prices went up, so there were gaps. So we were able to fill those gaps. So right now there's probably 400 units being built across the Cape, and there's more to come because we're still in that final process of some of these bids. We put $3 million into a fresh pond study, as I say, and that's in year 2 of that. And that information you can find on the Cape Cod Commission website. And we also put $5 million, we put out $5 million for nonprofits. And I was hesitant of that because, we have many nonprofits that do excellent work, as you're finding out doing this show. And it's hard to pick and choose, and a lot of people and that they're doing well, but smaller organizations have a hard time with federal grants and meeting those needs. So again, if they're meeting the expectation, $5 million did go to, I would say over 15 nonprofits that service across the region, and they really were the safety net nonprofits helping our women. We can different family service oriented, anti-poverty organizations. Great. So we were proud of that, and we put a lot into the county. We built up our public health department, so in our labs, so that we will be able to do the testing that the towns are going to be needing to do on a continuous basis when they're doing alternative septic systems or alternative methods, such as berms and that sort of thing for stormwater. Yep. So when you have to do that testing, we have to farm that out, and it's at an expense. We will be able to do, so we do provide services to the towns as well to have them have a savings. We do IT for some towns, that's a savings to them. Yep. We're providing this service that I was just talking about. So when we have a dredge, so we did build up our dredge. That is very important. We're surrounded by water. Many of our towns have working harbors and recreational harbors. They need to be functional. It's an economic development situation for towns, as well as a healthy waters. So we built up our dredging. We got a new dredge. We filled in gaps there and got the equipment, the repairs already we bought, so that those won't go up, and that we have them on hand if there's anything that breaks down. So that is a healthy service now that we're doing. So that's the type of things that we do on a regular basis. But this year, in an internal, we finalized our financial policies, and our last budget that is for review on the state level and through our auditors. We just got a Standard & Poor's increase because of how we managed our money, and we're fiscally sound. Our treasurer is about to get an award, or she's up for an award of the work she's done. And we had a great administrator that really was able to carry out what we wanted, and an excellent staff that has done it. So those are the people that we really have to thank.
Right.
We just sort of set the policy, and they are the ones that do the work.
So why are there 3 county commissioners?
Well, there's 3. I mean, I'm not sure what the thinking was of 3 as opposed to maybe 5, like a board, like a select board. But there's 3, and I think they figured, you're going to be covering the region. My race is a county-wide race. You can vote for me whether you're from Bourne all the way down to Provincetown. It's a Cape seat. And so it does kind of, at one time I was with Mary Pat, Bill Doherty, and myself. It was like the upper, middle, and lower Cape was being represented. So it worked out that way, and it has worked out pretty much that way since. And so we really do have a good handle on what is going on. We have an assembly of delegates, and they were constituted, they were originally selectmen or town managers that came from the towns and at budget time to sort of be your finance committee, make sure that we were doing the right thing, there was no fraud, we were prioritizing the right things, and we were making sure that the county was fiscally stable. When the Cape Cod Commission came in, the assembly got like a legislative designation, because the commission, they're a regional planning board, but they're one of 2. Martha's Vineyard has the same strength, that they have a quasi-judicial board that oversees commercial development. Where is it going to go? How big is it going to be? Is it going to meet the character? The commission is all about keeping the character, having economic development while we're protecting the environment.
Yes.
So they had to create thresholds for what met the town's needs. In the beginning, it was 10,000. You couldn't build over 10,000 square feet. Well, a 10,000 square feet building in Wellfleet would be look much different than it would in Bourne. So towns needed to adjust those thresholds, and it needed an elected body to review and approve. So they've been given a legislative designation through that.
Okay. Why are 2 running now?
So we stagger our elections. So every 2 years there is a commissioner on the board. We happen to be on this. It's a 4-year term.
Okay.
So Ron was elected 2 years ago,
Right.
Ron Bergstrom from Chatham. This year, Mark Forrest and myself are up for re-election, and I'm asking people to support Mark as well.
Yes. All right. So what do you think some of the highlights of your current term would be?
Well, we did do an excellent job in stabilizing the finances of the county. I mean, it's always been questionable. We don't have a large budget. Most of our money comes from deeds tax and property. There's a portion of property taxes we have. And if you really looked at that and added up what every taxpayer pays, they're getting a big bang for their buck. We do a lot of work. We do work from master gardeners to aquaculture and farming assistance, all the way up to wastewater and then advocating for things we need, such as we don't want the machine gun.
Right.
We're worried about the water quality of a machine gun base. We're advocating for the bridges. We're putting our whatever power and SWAT we have behind those efforts and for the
Great.
Bourne efforts.
So how can you help with the bridges? Because here in Bourne, that's a huge topic.
It is a huge topic, and really we're not in that middle, we're not that sort of state level, but what we can do is advocate. Bourne is going to get hit on both sides.
Yeah,
It's a town that's
it's all Bourne.
cut by a canal,
Right.
Which is a very tricky way to govern a town. And you're going to have construction on one end and on the other end. And all what we can do is fight to make sure that the citizens are being considered, heard. There's remediation given to them for their pain and suffering, which will
Yes.
happen
Yes.
more to you as it trickles down all the way to me. And so it's going to be, that's what we're doing. We've written letters to the federal government now asking for more money for the Bourne Bridge because the books are closing for this year. So we just sent a strong letter to Secretary Buttigieg and to all of the delegation. And as far as the, what was it, the other one, the bridges and the machine gun, we've been
range,
very
right.
engaged with
Yes.
the governor's office because she is, in one sense, the commander of armed forces of the forces here in Massachusetts. So we're employing her, and I will say Mark is doing a lot of work on that.
Yes, he
with
is.
his congressional expertise. So,
Going back to the bridges for a second, one of the things that concerns me is our emergency evacuation procedures, because if there's a hurricane coming, people need to get off the island,
Right.
and the backup is all the way back to Chatham.
Right.
And so is there a way we can convince the state to make sure that they keep that in mind when they're designing the local access roads and whatever? So right now they're having, as you know, 2 bridges on either side. So the Sagamore Bridge will actually be 2 bridges, one going each way, 3 lanes, and then the Bourne is supposed to be the same. I would advocate that we need to be able to change that over to make all of the bridges
Going one way.
Going one way,
Right.
and then, up in Wareham or Plymouth or wherever, switch them over. So,
Right.
because
it's actually a benefit for that, because we would be having an access that isn't just one lane from each side of the Cape.
right,
But and that's a very good thing. So I want to thank you for bringing that up. But we downwinders are the people who were against the nuclear power plant, and they had
Oh,
a
yes.
T-shirt, evacuation plan, swim east.
yeah,
I should have wore that today, but unfortunately, that is sort of the evacuation plan right now, even as it exists. If we were
Right.
hit with what Florida was hit
right.
with, and North Carolina,
oh, it makes you want to cry. It's awful.
It is awful, and they're the most beautiful places.
Yep.
And they're just being wiped out by the power of water and wind. We've had that on the Outer Cape. We did not have a hurricane. It was a sunny day. We had a full supermoon with high winds. And Duck Harbor, which was naturally filled in, it was a harbor that closed itself, is now reconstituting itself. And we have tremendous surges on the Outer Cape, as well as I'm sure you're feeling here.
Yes.
So an evacuation plan is a very good thing to put in the mix there, and I will make sure that the county government makes that known, and we will keep that in every advisory we send.
And also the pedestrian and bike path part of this, because they in planning to have a one side of each of the bridges for pedestrians and bicyclists, but I'm not sure how they know how to get them off the bridges.
Right.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will. It will. And hopefully they won't be biking across with 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Yes.
But that is a statewide plan to be able to have these long biking routes.
Right.
And that is to go all the way down to Provincetown.
Right.
And unfortunately, the only town that's blocking that is Wellfleet, my town.
Oh.
Because there's a misconception about they keep thinking people are going to pour out onto the highway, and I said I think people will actually stop before they go just barrel out of a head trail.
Right.
So anyway, but hopefully all of that will happen as well. But it is something to consider on how are we going to get off this
right.
Because it's only a matter of time.
Right. Definitely.
Only a matter of
Definitely.
time.
So personally, I'm very concerned with the environment on the Cape, particularly our coastal resilience. The vulnerability here is, as you know, frightening, and the need to clean up our freshwater ponds and rivers.
Right.
How does the commission actually get involved with the climate tech? Because now it looks like we're going to try, we as in the state, is going to start focusing on climate tech as well as life science. And to me, the Upper Cape or the Cape is just a perfect place because of our unique location with all the different types of water that we have and our very strong marine knowledge base. This is a great place to come, and I'd love to see a center here that brings existing green and blue companies and innovative startups together and find solutions and bring great jobs here. Right. So can you help with that?
Well, we can advocate. As I say, we don't have power to say this is the way it's going to go, whether you like it or not. Right. We can advocate for the best way to go, or what we feel is taking in as many people's concerns and safety as possible. So right now, with the Cape Cod Commission, we do, as I say, we do the research, and it really comes to the towns taking this. If it's a zoning change they need to do, if it's a planning change, those are the ones who have to take this information and make it
And
work for
implement it,
them.
right.
But it is all about, we have to increase our road heights.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, some of that is going on the Outer Cape. Roads are being raised because of the flooding that's been happening. So that's their first thing. And a lot of stormwater runoff, and having that go to where it would be filtered through natural systems, so
Okay.
it's not hurting our waters
Okay.
and ponds. We have to educate people about the use of the ponds. Overuse, they're kettle ponds for the most part, meaning they were formed during the glacier and they really don't have a natural spring feed. And phosphorus is not a friend.
Right.
Nitrogen is not a friend to
Right.
the marine water, and phosphorus is not a friend. So if you're still using Tide or things that have phosphorus in it, these are very crucial
Right.
habits to change. And
Right.
if we all adopt them, we'll at least be contributing to the
Yep, it's-
to the rescue of
Right.
and remediation.
So we need to educate people.
We have
because
to
most
educate
people don't know that. Right.
and we have to educate people about the watercraft they bring in, because they can be bringing in bacteria
Right.
from other
Other ponds.
places.
Yep.
They have to clean those things, even themselves. All the sunscreen we bring in over time. And now our seasons are warmer on either side.
Right.
The ponds are being used longer.
Mm-hmm.
People are staying here longer.
Right.
So we have to think about our ponds, and we have to think about our drinking water.
Yes.
How much do we have?
Right.
And we cannot overbuild our resources,
I
or
agree.
else we'll be Arizona
Right. And
bussing in our water.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to be very, very careful of how we go forward, even though everybody wants to build affordable housing or make sure everyone is housed. It can only fit so much.
right. We're an island.
We're
It
an
only goes
island
so much,
in
right.
many ways, and we don't want to be Long Island.
No, no. So, but housing is another huge concern for voters.
It is.
We've now passed the housing bill. How can you help implement these new opportunities, especially the season community designations?
Right. Well, in the seasonal, and that's all going to be shaking out. That's all new designations that they have
Right.
for the seasonal communities, and so it's, again, what we can do right now. There's housing, affordable housing projects. We just approved one, and some of the money that we had from the APA, we just gave over $1 million to a project in Truro, and Truro really does. These towns are small, so it doesn't take much to meet your requirement, your
Okay.
10%.
Yep.
But it also is, there was a big article in the paper today, or this week, in the Provincetown Independent, about J1 and H2B coming in to
Yes.
help us, and what would we do without them? 12 in a room in some
Wow.
of these places where they're staying for the summer.
Wow.
So it is really a crisis, and it's a crisis for our seasonal workers as well as our year-round workers,
Right, right.
and teachers and firemen and shopkeepers.
sure.
It's a big problem.
My concern is not just affordable housing, but the middle.
Right.
Like you said, workforce housing, senior housing, veteran housing.
Right.
Those are all things we have to look at, because yes, we have been focusing on affordable, and
Right.
of course we have plenty of the well-to-do, but it's that middle, and that's who supports us. So
right.
I really feel that that's something we have to pay more attention to.
Right. So in Eastham and in Nantucket, there was a case where a home was built. It was rebuilt, a very big house, and it was sold out as fractionalized housing. So many people, it's sort of like a timeshare, and each of those people can rent this house.
Right.
So it's a year-round, constant business in a residential area. She brought that to court. It passed. The judge saw the sense in that, and the Attorney General has now said that different language to different zoning bylaws, that she approved the intent. So on the Outer Cape, they have now put in restrictions of this. So you cannot have these homes in residential areas. They're trying to restrict the size of homes in particular neighborhoods. You have neighborhoods that were built in the 60s, 70s. They're somewhat modest, and now you're getting these mega mansions being put in there,
raise
and
and
it's only going to
replace.
start it.
Right.
So how can you curtail that and keep at least the character and structure of your community,
Right.
as well as meet these needs? So there's so much going on that we have to be aware of, and know that we have a voice, that we can say, we don't want that in our neighborhood. We don't want our town to lose that character.
The character, right.
And it's all about your zoning.
Right.
And when you see your state legislators saying, it's up to you, we've got the bill there for you, but you have to use it through your zoning.
Right.
That is the work of the town.
Great.
And the Cape Cod Commission and county is there to help you with those, how you're going to craft that.
Okay. So Sheila, I understand there's a ballot question on this election that is just for our county. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, the Assembly of Delegates has put a ballot question on the ballot, and we are encouraging people to vote no on that. And even more than just letting it go, if you read the ballot question, most ballot questions will say the MCAS, teachers approve of this or disapprove because of these reasons, this would change this way. And you know what this question is about. There is none of that there. It's sort of like a generic statement. The Assembly is putting it forward like it's a clarification of language, and it really, of a language of what? We don't know what section of the charter, we don't know where in the charter, it's clarifying language. And we have already established that we're going to have a full charter review next year. It is time for the county to have they might want to change the composition of the board, we might want to change the power of the board. But it is something that isn't for the commissioners to decide or the Assembly to decide. It's for the people to decide. It's the people's document. So we're going to open that up to the public and ask for representatives from every town and for people who are very familiar with charters and legal people, and let them take a look at the charter and give us recommendations of change, not for either body to be saying this is what we need to do. So on that ballot question, please vote no.
Vote no. Okay. Mail-in ballots will be in your mailbox starting very soon. Early voting starts October 19th in Bourne. It's at the Community Building in Buzzards Bay. Election Day is, of course, Tuesday, November 5th. Make a plan and use your voice to help our community, and please vote all the way down ballot. Your vote counts even more in a smaller race, as we have seen some races won by a single vote.
That's right.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you so much. I thank the audience. I thank all of the voters and citizens out there, and I thank you for your vote. And remember, on the county commission seat, vote for 2 and vote blue.
All right. Thank you. This is Kathy Fox Alfano for Upper Cape Spotlight. Have a good day.
The preceding program was underwritten by Barlow's Clam Shack, located at 856 Scenic Highway in Bourne. Barlow's Clam Shack, where the seafood is always fresh.